Most companies that deploy AI don't discover the real problem on day one. They discover it on day 47, when a process that was supposed to save 20 hours a week suddenly starts producing wrong outputs, quietly, without any error message, and nobody notices for 3 weeks. That's not a technical failure, that's a structural one, and it's far more common than anyone in the industry wants to admit. I'm Ronald. What you're looking at is an AI clone intentionally, because AI is already part of how we work every day at Data Wonder. We build AI automation and voice agent systems for real businesses, insurance companies, accounting firms, medical clinics, organizations where errors have consequences and efficiency has a direct cost attached to it. This channel exists because most AI content doesn't reflect what actually happens inside companies. It reflects what people hope will happen. That gap is what we talk about here. If that's useful to you, consider subscribing. Just what we observe in the field. Now, back to day 47. There's a pattern I keep seeing across companies that have deployed AI. And the pattern is so consistent that at this point, I expect it. The first few weeks feel like progress, real progress. Hours saved, processes running faster, staff relieved of repetitive work. Everyone is satisfied. Leadership is proud of the decision. The team that pushed for it feels vindicated. And then something shifts. It doesn't break dramatically. That would almost be better because a dramatic failure gets attention. What actually happens is subtler. The AI keeps running. The outputs keep coming. But something in the environment changed. A document format, a data source, a small update to an upstream system. And the AI, which was calibrated for the world as it was 3 months ago, keeps operating as if nothing is different. The outputs drift, slowly, and the humans who were freed from the work no longer have their hands on it, so they don't catch it. This is the part nobody talks about when they pitch AI solutions, and it's the part that defines whether a deployment actually succeeds long-term. Have you seen this in your own organization? A system that worked well at launch and then quietly started underperforming without ever throwing an obvious error? I'm going to explain exactly why this happens. But I want to be clear about something first. The cause is almost never the technology itself. The real cause is how the deployment was designed around the assumption that once it works, it keeps working. Let me show you what that looks like in practice. An accounting firm deploys an AI system to process incoming client documents. It classifies documents, extracts key fields, routes them to the right workflows. In the first month, accuracy is high. They reduce the manual review layer. They reassign 2 people to higher value work. 90 days later, a client changes their document template. It's a small change, a logo repositioned, a field moved 2 rows down. To a human reviewer, it's immediately obvious. To the AI, the field is in the wrong position and the extraction fails silently. The workflow continues. The data is wrong. Nobody catches it until a downstream report doesn't reconcile. That's not an AI problem. That's a process design problem. The deployment assumes stability in the environment. The environment was not stable. And here's the uncomfortable part. The accounting firm made a reasonable assumption. Most document formats don't change frequently. But not frequently is not never. And when you've removed the human buffer, never is the only threshold that matters. But that's not even the deepest issue here. I'll come back to that. The reason companies fall into this pattern is genuinely not about negligence. It's about the way AI gets presented and evaluated before deployment. The conversation focuses on what the AI can do. The demo is clean. The test data is representative. The metrics look good. There's almost no attention given to the question, what happens when something outside this system changes? It requires you to map every dependency, every upstream data source, every document format, every external integration, and ask, if this changes, does the AI fail loudly or quietly? Loudly is acceptable. Quietly is dangerous. If the system breaks and alerts someone, you have a response mechanism. If the system continues running and producing wrong outputs, you have a compounding problem. Every day it runs undetected, the damage extends. Does this sound familiar? You've deployed something, it worked, and then trust in the system quietly eroded, not because it broke, but because you stopped being sure it was right. If you've been finding this useful, a like would help this video reach more people who need to hear it. Now let's go deeper. The companies that handle this well share one characteristic. They designed for failure before they launched. Not in a pessimistic way, in an engineering way. They asked, where are the seams in this system? Where does the AI touch the outside world? And what monitoring is in place at those exact points? They maintained a thin human review layer, not because they didn't trust the AI, but because they understood that any system operating at scale needs a feedback mechanism. They built it in deliberately. The companies that struggle remove the human layer entirely during the first success wave. They confuse stable initial performance with permanent reliability. And that's a completely understandable mistake, but it's a costly one. Here's the foreshadowing I mentioned. The deepest issue isn't that AI systems drift. That's solvable with good monitoring. The deepest issue is what drifting AI does to the organization's relationship with the outputs. And that's where the real second-order effect lives. When an AI system has been working for 6 months and trust has built up, people stop checking. Not out of laziness, out of rational adaptation. If something is consistently right, reviewing it every time is inefficient. That's a completely normal human response to a reliable system. But then, when drift begins, when accuracy quietly degrades, the review muscle has atrophied. The institutional knowledge of what a correct output looks like has partially faded because people stopped engaging with that layer of the work. The AI didn't just automate the task. It gradually eroded the team's ability to catch when the task was being done wrong. That is the actual failure mode. Not the technical drift, the organizational one. The AI felt like progress because it was real, measurable, valuable progress. But the deployment created a new dependency without building the checks around that dependency. And when something changed in the environment, the organization didn't just lack a monitoring system. It had also, slowly, lost the human capacity to notice. This is why I say the failure is structural. The technology did what it was supposed to do. The process design didn't account for what comes after. So what does good look like? Good looks like this. Before you launch, you identify every point where your AI system touches the outside world. You define what drift looks like at each of those points, numerically, if possible. You assign someone who owns the monitoring, not a team, one person, with clear criteria for when to escalate. You keep a thin review layer in place, not on every output, but on a statistically meaningful sample, enough to catch a pattern before it becomes a crisis. And you do a structured review at 90 days, not to celebrate the win, to ask, what has changed in the environment since we launched? And does our system still perform the same way in those new conditions? That 90-day review is the single most underutilized practice in AI deployment. It costs very little. It catches almost everything. The companies that get the most from AI over the long term are not the ones that move fastest at launch. They're the ones that treat the launch as the beginning of an ongoing maintenance relationship, not a one-time implementation project. AI isn't a software install. It's more like a new employee, one who is fast, consistent, and excellent at routine work, but also one who doesn't notice when the rules of the job quietly change. Your job is to notice for them. Build that capacity in before day 1, not on day 47. If what I described today sounds like something you're navigating inside your company, a deployment that felt like progress and then started showing cracks, you can book a free call with me. The link is right below this video.